Alicia, I have to confess, I don't know, I know that you asked for the person who made the motion first and then the person saying it second. I don't know the rotation after that. How does it,
Would you rather I do it?
if you don't mind? Yeah.
Fine, I'll do it.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. I missed the sign. Is she ready?
Thank you.
I see her working on the keyboard, so I don't think she's ready.
Typing away right now.
Oh, okay.
Doing something. She's got that new system. to
I
do the
can't
audio
see her.
backup. I can.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Because the podium is in the way.
One second.
No, that goes.
So much pressure.
So,
Yes,
300, you go to the mission hall.
Oh, wow.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal, sir.
Yeah, you know, I think because I'm in it,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we got this game, we got another game. So,
You're only supposed to focus on the next game, though, right?
It's Atlantic Cruise North.
Not what's after that.
I can't go. My coach tomorrow for me tonight.
my wife,
We have practice.
hospitality.
So just text me.
You have this problem also?
We're good? Meeting for January 13th, Clintondale Community Board of Education meeting will begin at 6:32. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Maynard will be filling in for Ms. Valerio Noak, who is en route from her job. Mr. Manning is also going to be late. Mr. Maynard, would you please take the roll?
Ms. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Present.
Mr. Powers.
Here.
Mr. Maynard, present. Ms. Kaminsky,
Here?
present. That's 5 with 2 arriving.
Thank you. I can't see who's at the desk. Also in attendance is Mr. Woods and Alex running our feed back there. The first item on the agenda, it is recommended by the superintendent and the board president that the board approve the agenda as submitted or amended. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Mr. Powers has made the motion. Is there support?
Support.
Mr. Wilson supports. Is there any discussion? Excuse me, Mr. Maynard, would you go ahead and take the roll?
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. And Ms. Kaminsky,
Votes yes.
5-0.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. It is recommended by the superintendent and the board president that the board approves the minutes of December 16th, 2024 regular board meeting, December 30th, 2024 special board meeting, and January 6th, 2025 organizational and regular board meeting. Is there a motion? President will make the motion to approve the minutes. Is there support?
Support.
Ms. Wilson supports. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Yes, Mr. Powers?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a correction to item number 4 for the minutes for the January 6th, 2025 meeting, organizational and regular board meeting.
Yes.
Item 4, under Board Treasurer, there are 2 or 3 incorrect statements there. For board treasurer, it says motion by Mr. Powers. That should say motion by Mr. Manning.
Okay,
Then support by Mr. Wilson is correct. To nominate Mr. Powers for board treasurer, that's correct.
yes.
Then it says motion carried 6-1. I believe that's incorrect. I believe the motion carried 5-2.
Correct.
And then it says Mr. Maynard voted no. That is correct, but I believe it should also say Mr. Maynard and Ms. Valerio now voted no. There were 2 no votes, and hers was the other.
Yes, I did notice that in reviewing of the tape as well. So those are duly noted.
Thank you. With that amendment or supplementation to your motion, I will vote in favor of your motion.
Very good. Are there any more, is there any more discussion? Mr. Maynard, would you please take the roll?
Ms. Kaminsky,
Votes yes?
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes.
Motion passes 5-2. Approval of the bills. It is recommended by the superintendent and board.
Madam President, it's 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes. Approval of the bills. It is recommended by the superintendent and the board president that the board approve the bills ending August 16th. Yeah. So the bill run was January 3rd, 2025. January 3rd of 2025. Those corrections will be made. Is someone willing to make a motion for the approval of the bills?
I move we approve the bills.
Mr. Powers makes the motion. Is there support?
I support.
Mr. Wilson, okay.
Mr. Wilson will support. Discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like check numbers 8871, 8885, 125515, 125518, 125531, 155535, 125550, 125559, 125538. And in addition, I would like to know if the building, or excuse me, if the matter concerning Seacrest Wardle has been solved from last term.
Mr. Maynard, the checks you would like pulled, 8871, 8885, and then I heard 1125.
I have a list. Would you like
You have
to
the
talk?
list, please.
Could you pass that down to her real
Sure.
quick so I can give it to Teresa afterwards?
Thank you. So we will be pulling 8871, 8885, 125515, 125518, 125531, 15535, 125550, 125559, 125538. Mr. and Superintendent, could you make sure that these checks get pulled for review? Is there any other items that need to be pulled? Hearing none. Mr. Maynard, can you please take the roll?
Sure. Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. And Ms. Kaminsky?
Votes yes. The motion passes 5-0. Correspondence, it is recommended by the superintendent and the board president that the board accept the correspondent and receive them from Joseph Furso. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Mr. Maynard, is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Maynard has made the motion. Mr. Wilson has supported. Is there any discussion? Mr. Maynard, go ahead, take the roll.
Mr. Maynard votes yes. Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Votes yes. The motion passes 5-0. The next item on our agenda will be the student representative report. I do not see our students. They are probably preparing for exams. Hopefully they do well. So we will address our next topic, the superintendent's report. Mr. Janzarek, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Wanted to address two areas within my report this evening. One of them being an update on our secure entrances. We've received some additional funding for safety and security this school year for our secure entrances. What we plan on utilizing that money for is obviously getting secure entrances in all of our buildings. Had a meeting today with Presley and Carla, as well as our architect. That process is moving forward right now. We're finalizing plans right now of what will it impact, trying to find ways to utilize our current time schedule and get it done sooner than later. But due to the size of the project, it will be going out to collect bids for it. We're about 2 weeks out from that process, and then we'll be able to start moving forward. I'm extremely excited about the plans itself in terms of offering an additional layer of security with all of our buildings, of having secure entrances to go along with our key fob systems, to go along with the added securities that we've been working on. The other area I wanted to address today and bring up, every year at the end of the year, we always talk about graduation. We always talk about how great it is to see the kids up on stage. As an alternative high school principal for a while, it was always great to hear the stories of the kids that were crossing the stage. I just so happened to be at iCampus today, sitting down talking with some staff over there, and just hearing about some of the great things that are going on with the students over there. Hearing about 10 students that weren't on track to graduate, that are now on track to graduate and going to be graduating here soon. Hearing about students that were behind in credits moving forward. We have roughly 260 kids right now in the grades 6 through 12 working in our iCampus. Some of them working for various reasons, but one of the areas we talk a lot about when we talk about an alternative high school graduation are the stories that go behind them. And the stories that go behind each one of those kids to hear the progress they're making. I'm hearing from staff today that they're seeing more growth in the work that their kids are producing right now than they have in previous years. It's just positive to hear the great stories from the kids that weren't on track to graduation, that weren't on track to move forward with their education, really starting to move forward. So I'm excited for the end of the year when we can recap their graduation and see those numbers increase. But just wanted to bring it out in the room just to hear and say thank you to the individuals at iCampus and the students that are working hard to get back on track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment regarding business before the board? I do apologize.
Question for the superintendent on the superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. Maynard.
Mr. Superintendent, in your weekly update, you provided the board a very good update on what was happening with our special education department, where it stated that you are listed as the director now, that the county was coming in to help, and that we possibly have 2 part-timers. So the question I have, is the county helping on site now? Who are the 2 part-timers if you're ready? If you're not ready, that's okay. And number 3, on our December 16th meeting, we entered into an agreement with Aoud Educational Consulting Services, PLC. Will you be using their services, or is that just a backup right now until you figure out how it all falls?
I'll answer the last question first. That would be a backup. Obviously, when you start looking at additional services, you want to make sure that we are being responsible with what we're doing. If we need an individual to come in and offer additional services in a virtual setting to do assessments with kids as a psychologist, we have that available. So are we utilizing that on a day-to-day? Absolutely not. We're utilizing the ISD in terms of their additional support on their psychologist as well. In terms of directors, in terms of paper and pencil, I was in the special education office today going over a few things. I'll be working with Joanne in terms of some day-to-day things, signing off on IEPs, reviewing them, whether that's kids coming in from my campus. But also there will be individuals from the ISD. Justin's been phenomenal, the assistant superintendent over there, to work in terms of finding the correct level of support. I'm not comfortable in terms of sharing names yet until we have a schedule, but we will have multiple individuals from the ISD as a transition. We do have a couple retired special education directors that potentially could come in, but until I have names and we finalize things, I don't really want to give it public. And then also, you can also notice that it's posted. We have posted, we have collected applicants so far. Not at a point right now to close it or start interviewing, but want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to find the right applicant. When I finalize names, dates, when I finalize their schedules, I will send an email out to the entire staff kind of outlining it. But right now, without having the names and the dates of when people are going to be here, I really don't want to share all of those details yet. But as soon as that finalizes, I will have it out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Janzarek. Did anybody else have any questions for Mr. Janzarek regarding his report? Thank you. Public comment regarding business before the board. We encourage you to voice your opinion on topics on the agenda. Please stand and be recognized by the chairperson and state your name and address before commenting. To provide the opportunity for all to participate, the board policy limits each individual to 3 minutes. To ensure due process and respect of individual rights, the district maintains a formal process for handling complaints against individuals. A problem involving an individual or individuals or specific incident is best handled through the administrative channels. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you will be held legally responsible. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on items on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Custodian is recommended by the superintendent and the supervisor of operations that the board approve Pranvera Kodra as custodian effective January 14th at the rate of pay of $16.17 per hour, step 1 of the custodial pay scale, contingent upon approved fingerprints, records, check, and physical. This addresses our strategic goal number 1, employment services, recruit and retain talent to support and enhance student success. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion to hire custodian Pranvera Kodra?
I move the board approve Pranvera Kodra as custodian.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Mr. Powers has made the motion. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Maynard.
inside of her resume, there is a section where she says, I have worked for 20 years as a teacher, director, and curriculum specialist in education. I am currently working at the Clintondale Cafeteria SFE School, but I would like to return to practicing my profession as a teacher. I have several qualifications in the field of education for children with special needs and their physical development. I understand from reading my board packet that all of these were at a university that I can't pronounce.
Right.
So the question is, are we working with her to advance further into the teacher ranks, to see what transfers over and what doesn't? Or are we parking her there? Because she clearly states that she wants to get back into teaching. I would imagine in Albania it is slightly different, but are we doing that?
I will defer to Ms. Walmsley. Yes.
Can you hear me? I've had that conversation with her, and at this time, right now, she just needs a full-time position in order to make ends meet. And
Okay.
she is gonna continue to work in the kitchen and daycare as needed. But for right now, she does not, there's no rush for her to get back into teaching.
Okay. Can you tell me, like, the credits transferring over at some point? Will she need to be looking at colleges? Will she need help?
I
in
can't
it?
tell you how many of her credits will transfer over. It depends on what college she chooses to attend.
Okay.
Even if she's going back to college.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are, we are short teachers, we are short subs. And we're sitting on one that could possibly be a teacher. If
Teacher.
it's Albania and United States, obviously we'll have to work through that.
Correct.
But it should be something for us to keep in mind.
I'd like to add that we really aren't short subs anymore. We've hired about 25, or approved about 25 during the holiday break. So we're very fortunate.
Is there any more discussion on the hiring of the custodian? Mr. Maynard, you may go ahead and take the roll.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. Mr. Manning,
Yes.
and Mrs. Kaminsky.
Votes yes. The motion
6-0.
passes 6-0.
And Madam President, for the
Yeah.
record, it
Yeah.
is 6:52 and Mr. Manning has arrived.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry for being late.
Welcome to Clintondale, I guess, in your new capacity. Non-consent items, 1 through 3. Resignation. It is recommended by the superintendent and the director of human resources that the board approve the resignation of Joseph Furzo, teacher, effective at the end of the day, January 31st, 2025. Mr. Furzo has worked in the district for 26 years. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Maynard has made the motion with Mr. Manning supporting. Is there any discussion on the resignation of Mr. Furzo?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Maynard.
I am thankful for his service, and I don't know what his plans are in the middle of winter, but I wish him the best of luck on whatever he is doing in his retirement, and hopefully he enjoys it.
Very well said. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Also, Madam President, I would like to echo what Mr. Maynard said. We really thank him for his service. 26 years, thank you, Mr. Furzo. We really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
What's that? Yes,
What is it?
it's your name. It's a plaque. I just wanted to sentiment, I briefly worked at Clintondale. It was a joy to work with Mr. Furzo, always upbeat. Kids seemed to enjoy him, came down, I worked in the counseling office. He was truly a delight, and I wish him the very best in his retirement.
And if I may, Madam
Yes,
President?
absolutely.
I also got to know Mr. Furzo, and he got the full attention from the students, and he was very well liked by his students and staff. So Clintondale will definitely miss him a lot.
We will miss
Thank
him. Yep. Anybody else? Mr. Maynard, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Maynard votes yes. Mr. Manning?
Vote yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaminsky?
Votes yes, motion passes 6-0. Retainer fee, Thurn Law. It is recommended by the superintendent and the board approve the retainer fee for Thurn Law Firm in the amount of $2,500 for January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. This item aligns with strategic goal number 2, business and finance. maximize resources to provide high-quality educational experience for the students. Is there a motion on the floor? Is there a motion on the floor to approve the retainer fee for Throon Law?
I motion to approve the return fee.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, is anyone offering their support?
I think I'm also, oops, sorry, you gotta wait for his support.
You gotta wait for support for discussion.
Okay.
Is there anyone willing to support?
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Discussion?
Yes, Madam President. It's gonna be hard for me to get that in my head. I did some investigation, because I was concerned about one thing, is I wanted to know when the contract, started and ended, because I thought this was a little premature, even though, I mean, it's not a lot of money for a law office, but I do believe that the contract ends in July. And they're asking for their retainer fee now. I'm just wondering why they want it so early, unless I am wrong about the contract. Does anybody know?
Ken?
Yes, Ms. Walmsley?
Mr. Manning, after our conversation, I did go back and check the file. The Troon contract runs January 1 through December 31.
Okay. Then,
You approved it this time last year.
did I?
Yeah.
Must have been
Not
sick.
you, I
on-
mean the whole board.
The board,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, I wasn't here last year.
Very good. Is there any other discussion concerning our retainer fee for Thurn Law? Seeing none. Mr. Maynard, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Miss Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Maynard, yes. Mr. Powers?
Wait, did Mr., I'm sorry,
It goes in order of office.
pardon me, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
No.
Mr. Manning?
No.
Ms. Kaminsky?
Yes. Motion passes 4-2. The next item on the board agenda is the board meeting schedule for July through December 2025. It is recommended by the superintendent and board president that the board approve the board meeting schedule for July through December 2025. Those meeting dates are as follows: July 21st of 2025, August 18th of 2025, September 8th and September 22nd of 2025, October 13th and October 20th of 2025, November 10th and November 24th of 2025, and December 15th of 2025. Is there a motion?
Ms. Kaminsky,
Yes.
do you want to check the October dates? Do you want 2 meetings back to back?
Did I not list the second and the fourth? Okay, then that will need to be updated. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will need to amend the October 20th to October 27th.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Maynard?
while it was admirable that the Director of Human Resources pointed that out,
Yes.
you've approved the agenda, and we can make no changes
Okay.
until somebody makes a motion to
Okay.
make those changes. So if you're making the motion to approve it, then approve it with that change.
Gotcha.
Then yes.
Okay. So if I make the motion, I will need support, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I will move that we approve the board meeting schedule. Is
I think
any-
you're, I think you're
anyone-
looking for as presented with the exception of the October 20th date changed to October 27th.
Thank you, I appreciate that. As amended to the change for October 20th to October 27th. Is there anyone willing to support that?
I'll
Second.
support.
Who are you going to take, Mr. Maynard, Mr. Powers or Ms. Wilson? I heard them both.
Yes, but that's your call as the chair. You have to dignity.
Thank you. I will say Mr. Powers. I
Okay.
think Mr. Powers beat her out.
Discussion?
Is there discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
how did you come up with the dates?
I counted the second, I counted the second and the fourth. I made sure there were no legal holidays on those days. I looked at past school calendars to make sure there were no breaks or records or anything of such. And that's how I came up with those dates. July, we typically have one meeting, the same in August, and the same in December.
Okay,
Yes.
and
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
thank you.
Yes.
Oh, she did her homework.
Columbus Day.
This, you have a Columbus Day issue, you do.
In Columbus Day, we had a board meeting on Columbus Day this year.
That was an oversight. We did every holiday but Columbus Day because I didn't think about it.
Okay,
So just so you are aware.
okay,
And Columbus Day is the 13th, so if you would be amenable to moving that to the 14th, I'm sure everybody would.
yep. I will be happy to revise my motion to change October 13th to October 14th if Mr. Powers would like to support.
Second.
Okay,
And I have one final question for you.
yes,
There was a lot of grumbling the past 2 years because we only had one meeting in July and one meeting in August, and there was a heck of a lot of stuff on that agenda.
there was. I spoke with Mr. Janzarek concerning the length of time between those meetings with consideration to staff, to the board of a summer schedule. And I felt those dates were acceptable with the length of time. If other board members feel that additional,
I just wanted to point that out because
Yes.
we're setting it now,
yes,
and I'm sure this won't stop the opinions about too long agendas.
correct?
But as long as everybody here understands, we're gonna have two long agendas, especially the August 18th one, because
For
that's when you
school.
approve all of your hires if we don't
Hires.
do it beforehand.
That is correct.
So we're going to have a very long agenda then and possibly on the 21st. So I just want to make my colleagues aware that, yes, we're going to have one. So we might want to circle those dates and make sure that we don't have any important things for our own jobs
The
that are due
following.
that day, because it will be two long agendas. That's my only point in pointing that out, because for 2 years I had to hear the conversations about it being long.
Duly noted. Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Mr. Manning, you had a comment?
Yes, and since I was appointed back and since I won an election, we have in the very recent past some very long meetings. So this is not something new. I don't know exactly why we had such long meetings. As some of us get older and lungs are going and we have dying heart disease, it's hard to do for me to do a long one. So I don't think I can actually get through a long meeting. For some of these, I'm working on getting the paperwork that I was told to assemble, to get turned in, so once in a while, I can do this on my computer or through Zoom or whatever, YouTube. So that's what I'm trying to do, so I don't miss, any more meetings, but I won't be able to come to one that's like real long, so. That's the only thing I'd like to say, just to make the board aware that it's just hard for me, okay, medically.
That is duly noted, Mr. Manning. Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, Ms.
Yes, Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So, being new, I understand the board meeting schedule, and my question is like, reading the State Board of Education bylaws, it talked about the committee of the whole. So where we can actually get out and talk about things that's going in the district so we can actually work. Do we ever have any type of meetings in that way where we can actually get in and talk? Because my first question, let me add this. My first question was, researching a lot of districts, I noticed a lot of districts had one meeting per month. But listening to the colleagues, we don't want to have a long board meeting. So that may be the reason that we have 2 a month,
Correct.
or we have a lot of stuff going on.
It just
So-
depends on the year.
Excuse me one second.
I'm sorry.
So, the committee of the whole is more so where we can get in the meat and potatoes of things that's going on in the district. Because I do have certain questions that I want to know. I understand we cannot make decisions at that time, but, do we go to workshops? What do we do? Because I don't know.
Thank you. I know last year, I believe there was one, correct me if I'm wrong. We did have not an organizational, a committee of the whole. It was on a Saturday. I don't believe this board is opposed
Yes,
to, making those learning opportunities, meeting of the whole, as you speak. They're televised, and I would encourage us to do so, to really get at the meat and potatoes of what moves us,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Yes. Mr. Maynard?
Yes.
As we were looking at this last time around, because there are several issues,
Yes.
one school district in particular comes to mind, and they move quickly regardless of how thick their agenda is, with a myriad of, the board members have to respect the gavel first and foremost, and then the president has to move things along in a timely manner. But Lance Cruz does exactly what you are talking about, Mr. Wilson. They have a committee of the whole, and then they have a meeting. So at the committee of the whole, everything gets hashed out. At the meeting, you should be ready to decide yes or no. And I think that's something that we should move to. I've spoken with Ken and I've spoken with Barry about getting down to one meeting a month in the past, because I think we can do it if we utilize skills of all people together, and just realize that there's going to be some times where it just won't be one meeting a month because some things are going to be important. But that is one school district that does particularly do that item. And there's other things that we can do. For example, there are certain hires that can be on a consent agenda. They should be on the consent agenda. There's certain hires that can't. We'll have to live with that, but that should be a consent agenda item. And Mrs. Wilson, to my right here, does a wonderful job at making sure they go, and Lee tells her which one goes where, and they have conversations. But those items, that might be a model for us to take a look at it and have it. And the second thing that Mr. Manning and I discussed up until January 6th was these series of presentations you're gonna have, and it's something that I worked out with Ken before I took off, was each department's gonna come in. So on January 6th, they gave you a complete overview. The next one up is the HR department. And burning questions you have on HR, what's going on, how many teachers, are eligible for retirement? What are our plan if 25 of them walk out the door and say we won the lottery pool? What's our plan, Lee? How are we advertising, Director Walmsley? Those types of questions. And those microchasms allow you to do those, and those questions sort of alleviates the problem of having a very long Saturday meeting. Now, I'm not opposed to Saturday meetings if the issue is important. I think Mr. Powers and I are the only board members left that sat through the superintendent one for 3 hours out here, the workshop we did for the superintendent hire, and Mr. Manning was here but wasn't on the board. So there's different things that we can choosing from, but right now, I'm not opposed to it. I think going to one with a workshop is a great idea. Timed workshop, we're done, topic of conversation, let's roll. And then you can ask all of your questions up forward. But until we can get to the point where we all can get our schedules, you're coaching, I'm coaching,
Yes, sir.
okay? Barry's got a very, very, very extensive and busy law practice, so his schedule depends on whether he has a client that has an emergency brief due, and things of that nature. And everybody here has that example of things that are going on. So moving to that option, I've been for that for a year now, because 2. I mean, you know, my idea was to put that July meeting, and I told this to Barry, to put that July meeting on July 7th, and then everybody goodbye until the 28th of August. And, you know, we hired a superintendent. If he needs us, he'll call us. Otherwise, we're on vacation. That was my plan. And I think that, you know, boom, 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 done, goodbye, see you later, in case we needed something. But that's sort of how we've tried to do this workshop thing, because not everybody's available for a workshop, and I don't want somebody left out if we can avoid it. And that, because it's incumbent upon the 7 of us to work together to move through it in a matter of very judiciously, very thoughtfully, and very quickly. And if you notice, I think it's the ethics policy that requires us to be actively reading our board packet and getting the answers we need to say fit so we can make decisions up in here. So I like Lance Cruz's model. I know, if not all, I think I know most of the Lance Cruz board members, and they move good. They move quick, and they get it all taken care of, and they just walk out the door. And, you know, when somebody makes a presentation, they get a copy of it, they read it in advance, they go through the thing. So we just keep on doing those items. So it's something for us to consider, because I have a couple of subjects. I know Ken and I are, and I don't know what Felicia's doing yet, but Ken and I are the last horses remaining on the contract, and there's going to be some discussion soon coming up on that as well. So it's just a lot of different ideas, but I do agree with you, because I know you're familiar with Lance Cruz, because you coach there.
Yes, sir.
And I like it. I like their model, and it gets us done quickly, gets our answers. The superintendent comes when it needs to comes done, and even their agenda is boom, and it's done, and they use a different accounting system where all of the detail we could ever want, you guys would know why I pulled one of them, just by reading theirs, and what it was for, details. So there are some changes that we might want to look at going forward as a board. And maybe the first workshop is, what are our goals? What do we want to do together? You know, what is, you know, do you know, our students, I hear it all the time, want cosmetology. Okay? What are we doing to move a cosmetology program? I don't know the
CTE.
first thing about that, but the CTE, but those type of things, I think you're right. I think looking at something a little differently will save us all, and I think it'll be quite important. And I agree with you. So I'm open to you know, sticking for two right now until we can get a workshop together to decide how quickly we can move over to a model that works like that for us, if it even does. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard and Mr. Wilson, for suggesting that. Mr. Manning, do you have a comment?
Yes. Over the past 20 years, I think one of the most abused questions that are asked when you're going to try to appoint somebody after someone leaves for whatever reason. And there's a question I've heard asked 10 billion times, is they try to make the person that's trying to get on the board aware of that. You know, with this particular responsibility is you have to attend committee meetings, you have to attend some extra stuff on top of just coming to a board meeting. But it seems like everybody is, oh, yeah, that's me, I'll be there, and that never seems to happen. Very few. Mr. Maynard, I think you have been better than anyone at that. Your time that you have spent with this district is incredible to me, your stamina, your dedication. But I think what I don't like is we can't even talk about some of these things because we're so worried about, oh, is it a quorum? Is it this? We're adults. And as my profession being a counselor, if you can't talk, if we have breakdowns of communication, nothing's gonna work, nothing's gonna happen, but we're like so handcuffed because, oh, it's a quorum. And we need to work something out where, as board members, we can like be together, look each other in the eyes and figure some stuff out. I don't know what they do at Lance Cruise. I have no idea. But I don't think we should rush into any kind of change until all the board members have a chance to see this, to see how they operate. And then someone make a motion, and if we get 4 votes for it, then we change. It's just the way it is, but I just wish it was better, we had a better communication among us board members, that's all.
Yes, I think with Mr. Wilson's suggestion of these types of meetings, I think that's a great
It's important.
effort
It is important.
for us to communicate with one another. I will definitely take that under advisement and see what we can do moving forward.
And I was just saying lastly, I think that workshop on a Saturday doesn't have to be real long, but I think it's very effective if it's done correctly.
Very good. So I believe the motion before the board is the approval of the meeting schedule. Is there any more discussion? Ms. Valerio Noak has arrived. Are you prepared to take the roll?
Felicia Kaminsky,
Votes yes?
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Votes yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Manning,
Vote yes.
Ms. Valerio Nauk, yes, Mr. Maynard,
Yes.
and oh, I've already called Powers, and that's it, 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0 with those revisions. General public comment for items not on the agenda. We encourage you to voice your opinion on topics not on the agenda. Please stand and be recognized by the chairperson and state your name and address before commenting. To provide the opportunity for all to participate, board policy limits individual to 3 minutes. To ensure due process and respect of individual rights, the district maintains a formal process for handling complaints against individuals. A problem involving an individual or individuals or specific incident is best handled through administrative channels. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. Speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. Is there anyone wishing for public comment for items not on the agenda? On the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Manning.
No problem.
Mr. Walmsley.
Good evening, everyone. I am just up here to invite and remind everyone about our Sea Club Night at the Races fundraiser on February 28th. It's an opportunity for all of us to get together to raise some money for our athletic department. And I said it before, I'll say it again, what better way to raise money for kids than food, alcohol, and gambling? So I invite everybody to come on out, and let's raise some money for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walmsley. Is there anyone else wishing for a public comment this evening? Board members?
Mr. Chairman, I know that we don't have an item on the agenda for new business, but I just had a quick question, if I could burden the chair with that for a second.
Absolutely, Mr. Powers, what's on your mind?
And I don't mean this as a criticism or an objection at all, but I see we've got a change to the seating chart on
Yes.
the dais.
Yes.
So I presume that goes by certain rank in terms of officer position or seniority and so forth. Would you mind just explaining how this
How-
has changed around, how it works out?
The last round, I believe it was discussed, we tended to have the new board members on the end. So that's kind of what I did over there. We have our officers, you know, here in front, Lisa sitting next to Mr. Jan Derek, the vice president sitting next to the president. So that was kind of my thought of the collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other board member that
Have to sit next to me.
had any
Motion to adjourn.
business? Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Maynard, is there support? Support. Ms. Wilson? All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Zero. Meeting adjourned at 7:22.